Resident Evil 9 Requiem. Wow, the conversation around this game is interesting because it's kind of coming from all sides. You got the hardcore lore people, some of them complaining about the return to Raccoon City, other people cheering the return to Raccoon City. Some people are complaining about the main protagonist. I actually liked the explanation one of the developers gave. This guy, I believe it was. This guy? Yeah. So his explanation about why they initially were thinking about putting Leon as the main protagonist, but why they did not go with Leon. It's actually a really good explanation. And it does make sense. He basically was saying that Leon has been through so much and is so well trained that he's not exactly a great character for horror.
My interpretation,
kick ass now.
my interpretation is Leon has too much aura to be in another Resident Evil game.
He's a Giga Chad.
No. I feel like they can make another Giga Chad Resident Evil. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying?
They tried it with Ethan and he's a simp.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Just remake Resident Evil 6, nigga. Damn.
They're gonna skip 5. We already know that.
I hate that shit, man. I want to slaughter.
That would be the ultimate Giga Chad remake. You know that, Atreus, bro. Chris Redfield, fucking.
I want to push
mowing down. I'm not even gonna say
punching boulders.
Yeah,
I said a bunch of. All right.
Here's my compromise. If you make all the zombies light-skinned niggas, then you won't have a problem. I don't think no black people.
South Africa.
Yeah, so that's anyway.
So what? Raccoon City was a fucking ethno state then,
basically,
before the outbreak.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Basically,
well, it is
that's
the 90s.
crazy. The parasite only affect fucking white.
The
people.
outbreak is just AIDS.
Yeah, just skip all the black people and only affected white people. No, this seriously, this developer, that was a great response. And honestly, it's one of those things where, because I'm always listening, and I know people, people have their opinion. They're like, oh, you only want to hear your side. Like, no, actually, when he spoke and he explained it, I was like, you know what? Respect. I never even thought of it that way. Like, I never even thought of it that way, and I can admit that
it really doesn't. It really doesn't make sense for Leon to go into any situation without like a suitcase full of just the best weapons ever. Like, I know how this shit goes. I got a rocket launcher here, grenade launcher, fucking.
But he said, he's like, Leon is not the type that if somebody were to or something were to fall down, he's not going to turn around and be like, oh my god, like he's not that kind of that kind of reaction. He's not going to get that kind of reaction. Exactly. So if you're trying to give a true horror, a true uneasy feeling, Leon's not going to be the character that you're probably going to use. He's just too Giga Chad at this point. He's too fucking numb to it at that point. So
that's the same problem. That's the same problem like the John Wick movies got to. It got to a point where you're like, okay, he's a god, basically. There's no real challenge.
Basically, here. Exactly. So at this point,
but what do you just never bring Leon back? Like what?
No.
You put him. I think you could bring him back as a side character.
No.
Until we get old man Leon.
No, what you do with them at this point is you just put them in the CG movies. That's what they've been doing.
Nah. I want my boy in a video game. So do we get do they ever go?
Oh, Mercenaries. There you go.
Just put him in a scenario that's out.
So you don't ever think they'll go? Yeah, you don't ever think they'll go back to like a more action version of Resident Evil?
I think they will at one point. I just don't think it's the right
eventually.
Time.
Yeah, but I think they probably.
But
will.
the horror element works.
The problem with all these kind of stories is eventually the thing that's causing the horror is going to get discovered on such a scale. They're just going to send the fucking army in and crush it, so it stops being horror and becomes action.
But
it's horror on a personal level, though. It's horror for like one person experiencing it at the moment.
They've got to be in on the ground floor before it becomes
like
a national emergency.
Sure, they may know there's a government that they can go to, or there's like but at the end of the day, they're by themselves in whatever particular section of the world they're in at the time. It's their experience. That's the horror. Because sure. I mean, even with Ethan could, if he was able to, I'm sure he could have easily gotten back up or something, but it's his experience in the house at the time trying to escape. It's his personal experience with no backup, no help, no nothing.
Yeah.
So that's where the horror comes from. Otherwise, like, sure, of course, you could send the army into any place that Resident Evil took place and just fuck it all up,
I think
it's got to be localized. You've got to be trapped.
I thought they was going to do like a horror trilogy and then more of an action horror, go back into the action horror thing. That's what I always figured like Resident Evil 10 was going to be.
Well, didn't they try to do 8 a little bit more actiony? Nothing too crazy.
It was a little bit more actiony,
especially compared to 7.
Yeah, 7 was some bullshit. I was in that manga. It took me a while. I ain't gonna lie.
If you look at, go ahead.
No, you got it.
No, I was gonna say if you look at 9, it seems like they're going back to what 7 was, like the vibe from 7.
Yeah, because I mean, Ethan is more like, okay, I know what the fuck going on now. So, but she seems like she's gonna be like the opposite of wet the entire time. If you get my,
I get it. The lighting is fantastic though. It's they're getting damn near like some of the detail that Capcom is capable of. So it's both. You could do first or third. I don't know if it's optional from the get-go, or I don't know if there's certain segments that are first and third. I think it's optional from the get-go, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it is. Thank God that I can't stand first-person Resident Evil.
So let's talk about that. That's actually great because
I was about to say, because the first person did a little something to me that, because Resident Evil 4 is my favorite, but that was third person. And during that time when I was young, that one did have moments where it scared me, but I felt like it gave you the tools to be confident about what you was doing after you. Because what are the motherfuckers called that regenerated? Those motherfuckers.
The Las Plagas?
I don't know. I don't give a fuck. When the motherfucker stretched his arm, grabbed me by the head, and smashed my head open, I put the game down for a good month. But Resident Evil 7,
I remember that.
Resident Evil 7, when I was in that fucking
I think
water,
they were just called regenerators.
Oh, that is what they're called, huh? Yeah, the regenerators. But Resident Evil 7, with it being first person, and I remember being in that water and the old girl was crawling in that shit. Again, I had to put the game down for a minute.
I would love to see
you play experience is something different, and you can't pay me to do the VR. There's no way.
They're called regenerators, by the way.
So, let's talk about that in particular. So, me personally, I'm not really scared of much. This very.
Hey, yo, do me a favor. Can you ban Schizo Sweets? Yeah,
no, Schizo Sweets. Instead, what I'm gonna do is bring up his chat. What do you say? What do you say? Let's see. Sweets. I can't, bro. The chat's moving so fast. What did he say?
What do you like better, Popeyes or KFC?
That's crazy. Did he really say that? Popeyes, of course.
Damn.
I'm not even black. I'll say that.
That's correct. No, that's correct.
Yeah, that's the answer.
Both are gross.
Anyway, so let's talk about the first person, third person aspect. So I know I'm not scared of much. I play horror games pretty easily, but first person horror is by far infinitely more scary than third person, in my opinion. Is there anybody that disagrees with that?
I'd say to take it one further.
I agree.
VR first person.
That's what I said. You can't pay me to do that shit.
Hold on. Sheep disagrees. Sheep, you disagree with that?
I disagree with that because in order for it to scare you, they have to basically put you into they have to railroad you into the scare factor, and that's not scaring. That's just storytelling. That's not really setting an atmosphere.
I don't know. I just don't like not being able to see the back of my character.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
so I understand that aspect, Sheep, but I think the fear of first person comes from the lack of peripheral. So like in third person, you could see what comes up behind you, even if it's only for like a second or a second and a half before it happens. You could see it. Okay. Whereas with first person, you don't know what's behind you. And there are certain games that can get you without jump scaring you. And those are usually the ones that are really, really. That's why in Resident Evil 7, one of the details that I really enjoyed when I played it, that I spotted immediately, is when you open the door to any room, it's not an immediate open. When they open the door, it's a crack open, and then you kind of look slowly open, and the camera pans in a way that ensures you can't see what's behind that door at all. So like he ends up looking to the left a little bit, then looking straight, and that little detail just adds that extra like, fuck, man, what's behind this? Like, what's behind this door? You know what I mean? It's even if you don't get jump scared, it just adds that. When you're playing third person, it's like, bro, you see all around you. There's no problem. There's not a single third person game I've ever been scared of. Like ever.
Third person for me, first person games when it comes to horror are more personal. When something happens to a third person character, I feel like that happened to you, nigga, not me. You know
totally agree.
Actually, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, Resident Evil.
But if I'm playing a game and the character gets scared, I don't say, "Oh man, Leon jumped at that." I say, "Oh shit, I jumped at that." It's
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like you having the opposite effect because
that's the sort of transcendental thing that happens when you play all games.
You ever had your hands lock on the controller when it's some shit happened in a horror game?
Yeah,
because I feel like it's almost like it's happening to me. Where I don't get that effect when it's in third person. Like Dead Space, the Dead Space remake. I never played the original Dead Space, y'all. So maybe that's scarier. I don't know. Dead Space remake was really fun, but at no point did I ever feel scared. There was times where the motherfuckers was popping up behind me. I was like, oh shit. But it was never like, oh my God, I got to throw the controller down.
All right, so for example,
play Alien Isolation. They're getting you.
Oh, fuck that game. Yeah, I'm not playing
Resident
that.
Evil,
They're
the original,
getting you, man.
I think RE2 had it as well. Like when like crows burst through the window or dogs jump or something like that.
Yeah.
And your motor functions start to fail you, and the tank controls are just like, which way am I going? Oh, I'm going to death.
Yeah. And that's why that's how they deliberately chose tank controls to give you that feeling that you're not completely in control. You might fuck up at any time.
Yeah.
Hypno, you said no third person game ever scared you?
I don't think so. No, I'm trying to think back. I don't remember.
Not Eternal Darkness?
No.
Okay.
It was creepy, but it didn't scare me.
Play
and there were jump scares.
Slender Man on
Slender Man's not scary.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Are you guys not scared of don't you find fixed camera angle games a bit more scary, like the old Silent Hill and Fatal Frame and
that's what I was saying.
They definitely can be.
Yeah.
Because they're a little bit harder to navigate as well. With first person, I feel like I'm being taken out of the experience. I don't know why. I just can't. I disconnect completely. Yeah.
I feel with fixed camera angles, it's for the similar reason as to why I believe that first person was scary, because of the lack of peripheral vision. So you can only see what's in that still shot. And the moment you go to the next still shot, there could be anything there. You don't know, especially if the music is hitting right and the environment's hitting right, and you just got that like ominous music.
That's Resident Evil 1.
Right.
Literally. It's all fixed camera.
Even Silent Hill. Silent Hill.
That's pretty much
like Resident Evil 1, you get the telltale side, you get the like noise.
I was gonna say even the door opening animation in the first Resident Evil is still creepy.
Yeah, man.
What's Man say?
Yeah, man in the comments said he didn't think that I was a horror game kind of player. The truth of the matter is, I'm really not all that much. There's just some iconic horror games that I really enjoy. I did want to. First of all, I had to escape the Negro Casual plantation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, that's crazy, dog.
I had to escape that joint, and I want to say horror was probably the last genre that I really just started exploring like that. Dead Space was just like, oh shit, looks interesting. I never played the original. Let me play the remake. And that shit, like, I'm mad we're not gonna get a remake of the second one. But I just downloaded the old.
It's not confirmed yet, believe it or not.
Nah, EA ain't making it. They said, nah, fuck them sales.
No, I can't ask you, have you ever played Siren?
Nope.
That sounds familiar.
Forbidden Siren.
It does sound familiar. I can't think of it.
If I would say for third person games that will scare you, play Forbidden Siren and play a Japanese horror game called Kuon. You'll probably have to
I played that.
Well, okay, so hold on.
Kuon's terrifying.
True Japanese horror, that's a whole nother genre.
That's fuck that. I'm
not going anywhere near
there's
that.
No limit. There's no limits on that. You know
yeah, fuck that shit.
I'd be reading Junji Ito sometimes, and I'm looking at him like, you motherfucker, bro. What's wrong?
Oh yeah, bro wrote a whole book about why he does this shit.
Bro, I read fucking Oriichi, the second volume. I'm like, all right, the first one's not that bad, no problem. Second volume, bro, they stabbing a baby in the neck within the first 3 pages. I'm like,
right. That's where I'm all for the woke shit. You feel me? That's where I'm pro woke. Because Americans ain't doing that shit. Them niggas over there don't care. They like, slaughter babies, little girls. We doing all that.
That shit's crazy. The one game that I'm looking forward to playing, and I absolutely will play during my October Horror Fest or whatever, is going to be Still Wakes to Deep. I hear a lot of good things about the game Still Wakes to Deep. That one's like it's a first person. You're like on an oil rig in the middle of nowhere. It looks so sick. So definitely gonna check that out.
I never got to play Fear.
I never played that.
Fear is fantastic. But Fear, like if you want a nice combination of like an action game, but also really fucking scary, Fear is it. At least the first couple of Fears. Because then it gets a little weird when you get to the co-op one or whatever. But even that one's not that bad. Yeah, but Fear 1 and 2 and the third one is not. I'm telling you, man, it's great. It's great stuff.
Man,
and you can buy them for like 5 cents.
Oh yeah, that's how I ended up picking them up.
There's a Japanese horror game that I played when I went to Japan. I went to this Japanese like underground shop in Okinawa, and I don't know what the name of the game is because I couldn't read the kanji. I played it for about 5 minutes in the store when everyone was there. It was a PS2 game. It was the scariest thing I've played, and it was in broad daylight. I have no idea what it was called. I wish I could find it, but it was third person. And it freaked me out so much that my friends were watching it as well. I wish I could find it. If I ever find it, I'll show it to you. But it was the scariest thing I've ever played.
Or when was it?
It's a PS2 Japanese horror game. It was never released outside of Japan, according to the store owner. I wanted to buy it, but it's worth like £1,000 or something. So I couldn't get it. But it was terrifying. I have no idea what it was called.
What was terrifying about it?
To the fox.
That's a lot of money.
It was the sound design was really. It was like it kind of had that Forbidden Siren sound design where it always kept you like on your toes. It had these very awkward camera angles. It was the screen was kind of like, you know, when your TV static and it's making those weird sounds. There were ghosts like where I was walking, but they weren't attacking you. They were just kind of moving towards you and then sort of disappearing, and then the camera would change. You wouldn't know where they were. It was done really well. I don't know what it was called.
Well, regardless, I'm pretty excited for Resident Evil 9. I think it's going to be. I'm
about to buy the full pack.
I think it's going to be definitely more towards the horror theme than 8 was. But
has there been another Resident Evil that has multiple camera angles the way that this game is going to, where it's going to go where you can switch from first to third?
8
did.
8 had it, but that was after the fact. That it was a DLC that added third person. 7 didn't have it. And yeah, so I think you're gonna be moving with that moving forward. But my thing is like, so I'm sorry to cut you off, Wizard, really quick. I think when it comes to Resident Evil, I never quite understood why they went first person. I understand it is definitely more horror, in my opinion. And PT was huge at the time and all that. And they were trying to probably double on that. But my thing is like Resident Evil is a third person game. It's always been a third person game. And even if you went first person, you should have always had an option for third person. I feel like that would have definitely helped the sales, even though 7 sold pretty decent. I don't think 8 sold as well, but I could be wrong. But third person options would have definitely helped initial sales, because then people would be like, oh, okay, so I could play it like Resident Evil like I always have, or if I want to dabble into first person, I can as well.
I think you make a really good point there. I would almost argue that 7 and 8 are so different from the originals that they should have offshot it into a different series and had that completely separate from Resident Evil.
Funny you say that, because when Resident Evil 7 was announced, before anybody knew it was a numbered entry, everybody thought it was a spin-off series. Everybody thought it was a spin-off Resident Evil that was more horror focused instead of action focused. They didn't realize that it was going to be number 7, especially since Ethan was the main character. Nobody saw anybody. Only until Chris Redfield showed up at the very end of the trailer was when people realized that, oh, this is a numbered entry. This is 7, you know. And then of course you saw the 7 logo show up and everything like that.
But I'm arguing that they should not have done that. Like they could have had they could have had 2 different amazing series right now. But right now they've convoluted Resident Evil with first person and third person. And this is coming from a huge fan of 7 and 8. Like I love those ones. I would almost argue I like those better than the original ones. But to me, I agree with you. Resident Evil.
If it wasn't for 4, 7 would probably be my favorite.
No, I totally get what you're saying, Smash. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that most of the world agreed with you too, that this would have been better off because that's just naturally what people thought it was. They thought it was. I'm
not saying it should have been a spin-off. I'm saying it should have been like its own series, like a completely
not even Resident Evil.
Right. Removed from the world.
I agree with that.
But the same storyline, just disconnected from.
What are some other horror games